All right. Hello, I'm Joe Dragoni, junior in BAME, and this is my session 3 video assignment for the stock valuation analysis. So, for this assignment, we have a scenario where we inherited $75,000 from our great aunt who always said invest in quality companies. One of the companies we were considering is Microsoft, and we're looking at stock here, which is at this point in time, at least for this assignment, trading at $380 per share. Some of the information we're given with this is that Microsoft pays an annual dividend of $3 per share. The dividends have grown at 10% annually for the past 5 years. It's expected 4% growth going forward from here. And then the S&P 500 is returning 10% annually. The treasury bonds are yielding 4.5%. And an alternative choice we could make would also be to put our money in a savings account at 4% interest. So some of the things that are using the driver framework to sort of analyze this stock valuation case. We start with the D. I think that this stock is valuable, at least Microsoft stock is valuable because it's such a large company that's made many products and innovations that people have been buying for decades, ever since Bill Gates started this company, making computers, and then that's gone on to more than just computers, like Xbox, gaming consoles, online services such as Microsoft Office, like we use Excel, Word, Microsoft Teams, PowerPoint, all those things are part of Microsoft. Innovations in cloud computing, now that we're making so many advancements with large language models, LLMs, like I've noted here, all this generative AI or artificial intelligence that we're using these days makes it super valuable, especially using like Copilot and ChatGPT, all that stuff. Investing in this company makes a person a shareholder since they're investing in digital infrastructure that plays such a vital role in many people's lives, and there are many advantages that come with that. So becoming a shareholder in this company, you get a say in the company decisions, you get dividends, you get like voting power on certain decisions the company makes, and then as a shareholder, you're part of like an entire community that owns a little bit of this company. So in this case, we mapped out if the price is $300 with all of the other information we're given, doing a little map of the payout of dividends over a 3-year period of time like we did in class. So sort of following that example here, at year 0, the present value of our stock without earning any dividends yet is $380. So it's negative $380 because we are losing that money because we are paying the market for that stock, assuming just one share at this point. One share would be $380, so we're losing $380 there. After a year of growth, the first dividend on top of that, alongside our $380 that's in the stock, the first dividend would be $3. Second dividend for year 2 would be $3.30. Third dividend for year 3 would be $3.63. Following that dividend calculation form, and then assuming all other things are true and the growth rate is constant, which it usually isn't because so many things can change. The return, if we would take it out in the third year, would be $505.78. And then the dividend grows 10% as years go on. And you want to keep it in so it grows more, but as we'll see here in a couple seconds with the code that we generated for the I stage, time value of money shows that these aren't the true values or the present values. These are the future values of these dividends, not the present values. Due to the time value of money, the dollar tomorrow is not worth the dollar today. So we can see that here, and you'll see that in a second with this code. So for the I stage, entered in all of the inputs from the scenario, the current price, the present value of the stock being $380, dividend being $3 currently for the first year. Treasury bond yield is 4.5%. The S&P return is 10%. The market risk, and then the growth period, dividend growth, stable growth rate of 4%. Then you also got the earnings per share and book value calculated or found off of Gemini. 1154 for the earnings per share, 3415 for the book value, which we'll use to calculate the price earnings and the price book ratio. So as we can see here, we calculate a bunch of different things, such as, we got the calculating the present value of the dividends, or the present value here of dividends. Whoops, don't want to do that. Present value here of the dividends, as well as the future value to sort of convert back and forth to see those. The price earnings ratio, the current price over the earnings per share, and the PB ratio, the current price over the book value. Also calculating the intrinsic value, or what we think the stock is worth, the future sale price, calculating the present value of that here, as we can see, and then the DDM formula here to find the stock price at the end of 5 years, which we wanted to calculate there. So as we can see here, if I run this code, we can see that it works. And then for 5 years, it shows us the dividend calculations with that high growth period. So over time, like we calculated with the 10% growth rate, from after 1 year, if the dividend is $3 at the beginning, 1 year after the $3 would be $3.30. After that, $3.63, $3.99, so on. Holding the 10% growth rate constant there, which it could change, like we said already. Then we can see here the present value, interestingly enough, only changes by like 1 cent, maybe 2 per year. So it stays pretty constant, which, as we talked about, makes sense. It's the present value of that dividend. While here, the future dividend is shown as well. And then to look at the multi-stage DDM valuation summary, we can see our required rate of return, is 9.45%, which would be what we need to get or like we talked about, the rate of return that would come with this growth rate. And then from years 1 through 5, $15.23 were made in 5 years, which is actually the present value of that, adding all of the present values from the 5 years. Obviously, not taking into account present value, that number would be a little bit higher. Then our sale price in year 5, $92.20, and the present value of that sale price, only $58.70, which is very low. So then we calculated the intrinsic value, or what we actually think the stock is worth, compared to the actual market price, which is the current trading price of the stock. So we talked about that already. The market price, $380, which is what we paid for it, but our intrinsic value is only $73.93, which is significantly lower than what the market price is. So the stock is way, way overvalued here, at least in our eyes, from the calculations that we've made through Gemini. Then, of course, some other financial ratios that are good to consider: the price to earnings ratio, which is high, which is a good number. The price to book ratio, or the PB ratio, $11.13 here. So just some other things to consider while looking into investing in Microsoft. So to validate these answers, as we said already, the current market price being $380 for Microsoft is significantly higher than our intrinsic value of $73.93. So it does not make to spend all our money on this investment, at least according to this information that we found out. Why would we make that purchase if we think it's almost $300? If we think our value, or what we value this stock at per share, is almost $300 less than what Microsoft is pricing it at. So it's better to spend our money elsewhere, like in a savings account or in the S&P 500. So some more code that I used to validate this answer. Made a table of the sensitivity of the intrinsic value to growth rates. So looking at high growth rate and stable growth rate, we can see that as the stable growth goes up and the high growth goes up, it will significantly increase our intrinsic value of that, which is these numbers inside of the boxes here. So stable growth and high growth, definitely both prove to be more beneficial to us because it would increase our intrinsic value from the 73.93 that we have here at the stable growth rate of 4% and the high growth rate assumption of 10%. So as the high growth increases and the stable growth increases, it gets to an amount that we are more happy with because, obviously if we have more money, then that will make us more happy because we'll have more money to spend, and we'll actually see that our money has been growing, obviously. So this is another thing to validate with our answers. Now for the E stage, we can see that a change in the growth rate could dramatically change the intrinsic value of the stock. A small change in the rate of growth could be the difference between hundreds of dollars and a higher growth rate. Sorry, I cannot speak. Would make the stock more valuable to us. So to back this up a little bit more, I had Gemini calculate with the dividend discount model, the DDM, how the changing the expected growth rate would impact our value using that required rate of return of 9.45%. So on top of our growth that we already have, if there was just a little bit of growth, say 2%, we would do the $3 dividend times 1.02, which is 2% on top of our growth that we already accrued over the rate of return minus that growth rate, which gives us the value of $41.07. And then 2% more of that, it would be $57.25. 2% more on top of that would be $92.17. You can see, and then 8%, $223. So it's almost like it grows exponentially when we increase the percentage, even by a tiny bit of growth. So looking for a greater amount of growth, Microsoft is already a very well-known, developed company. So who knows how much room to grow is really left with them. Their stock's already really expensive, or not expensive, it's just priced high. So who knows how much growth is left for them to do, or if they will really grow in the future. But if they were to grow more, it would increase the value, as we can see here through these calculations. And then for the R stage, just sort of some of the aha moments that we found here. The expected annual return would be approximately 4.82%, which is only slightly better than the risk-free rates offered by the Treasury bonds or the savings account, and is well below the S&P's average return of 10%. So because of this, it might be a good choice to diversify our portfolio, maybe even invest a little bit in Microsoft, some in the S&P 500, some in the Treasury bonds, other stocks like Apple, or even just some new stocks like NVIDIA. And then, just some other things we learned, like there's many factors to consider when choosing a stock to invest in. And it's important to look at things like the present value with the time value of money, growth rates, discount rates, the earnings you get from dividend, the PE and PB ratios. All of that stuff is really important. And you realize, how many moving parts there were to look at. And the gap between the value I calculated and the market price makes me believe that this code generated does not account for dividend earnings, might even be missing some other things too. And it is driven mostly by future growth projections, which, like I said already, Microsoft has developed itself to a very high level. So who knows how much growth is there to be had. So because of this might not be the most accurate calculation. There might be some other work that might need to be due to fine-tune these calculations. And then one last aha moment that I had was seeing how sometimes the biggest companies might not be the best investment choices. Mostly, I think, just because they're so large already. There's so many investors already that, you have to, they're still growing. There's not like a dip to buy into. There's not much growth to be had, so your money won't really grow exactly all that much over the course of time. Although, if they are paying good dividends, then that could be a plus as well. So that was my analysis of the Microsoft investment scenario with stock valuation. And thank you for your time.